I think the similarities far outweigh the differences. We might have differences when it comes to income levels, opportunities in education, differences when it comes to the clothes that people can buy and wear. But those differences are very superficial. Down underneath all those differences, we're very similar in that young people are learning, they're growing, they're trying to fit in, they're trying to figure out where they have a place. And the church is helping them do that everywhere in the world. Some people say, oh, it must be easy in Utah because there are more Latter-day Saints. Well, in some ways it might be easier, in some ways it might be harder. Some people say, oh, it's much easier when you're living away from a large group of Latter-day Saints because then you have to be stronger. Well, sometimes that's easier, sometimes you have to be stronger, sometimes it's a little easier to be weaker. Always it comes down to the same thing, and that is our personal commitment and our personal choice. And when people can make that choice, then that makes a huge difference in their lives. When they can say, I know who I am, and I know what God expects of me, then it doesn't matter whether they're with a big group of Latter-day Saints, some of whom might not be living the way they should, or whether you're with a small group of Latter-day Saints and you've got a lot of eyes looking at you and a lot of people judging you. Whatever the situation, it always comes down to a personal connection that says, I know who God is, I know who I am, I know who Jesus is, and I choose to be a valiant child of God. I choose to be a courageous disciple of Jesus Christ, and I choose to live my covenants. I met a young man, in fact, I can show you a picture because I took it with him. I took this picture, and it was with a young man who impressed me a great deal because he came up to me and he said, I am the Teachers Quorum president. And I said, oh, wonderful, President, what are you teaching your quorum? And he said, soy un hijo amado, un amado hijo de Dios, y él tiene una obra para mí. I am a beloved son of God, and he has a work for me to do. Wow, that impressed me so much. The fact that he knew that theme, the fact that he said he was teaching it to his teachers, the fact that he knew who he was, that tells me that he'll make it through. No matter what else comes, no matter what kind of pressures he feels. All young people feel pressure. But when he is able to say, hey, I know who I am, and I know God has a work for me to do, then his self-esteem, his self-worth is not dependent on what other people think. It depends on what God thinks. And that tells me that there's a young man who's going to succeed.